Hi everyone, welcome again to 5 Minute Fix. I'm Kim.
And I'm Bridget.
Today we're going to talk about biting. And I wanted to start by asking, why does biting happen?
Look, I think biting is, again, very developmentally appropriate for young children. I think very young infants bite as a form of experimentation, and sometimes even, little babies they'll be playing with something and they'll just bite, or they'll bite on your hand just to test the waters and see what happens. But it becomes more of a problem when toddlers are biting, especially if they're biting their friends. And I think for them it's due to a lack of communication and frustration and not being able to communicate.
How can we prevent biting?
I think preventing biting is the important part, because if we put a lot of our energy into actually preventing it from happening, we're going to be a lot better off in the long run. I think the most important thing with preventing biting is having somebody nearby the child if you feel like biting might be going to happen, especially if you've got a few children together and you've got one child that has been biting lately. It's good to just have someone nearby, because what we want to do is set that child up to succeed so that they're not seen as a biter by their friends. So it's really good to have someone nearby. I think it's really important to praise the child a lot when they're using other strategies for their frustration. So, going up to them and seeing that they might be about to get frustrated, somebody took their toy, and saying, "Oh, why don't you tell the child such and such took my toy, I want it back." So, starting to use that language when they're not frustrated and they haven't bitten. I think another really good strategy for biters is reading children books about biting. There's lots of great books out there, and if you put it into Google and the internet, books for children that are biting, then you'll get lots of great things back. And just sometimes reading through that story, the stories often will talk through the emotions, so they'll talk about a situation where a young child bit, and then they'll actually talk through the strategies for that child, what they should have said, or talking about how the child that was bitten might be feeling, and doing that beforehand when you're preventing it and when the child's not actually biting is really good. It gives them a chance to really think through. Another way you can do that's with dolls, and you can just do it yourself if you can't find the right book. Talk about a doll that bit and talk about how that doll might be feeling. So using props and stories is a really great idea for little toddlers. It really helps them understand. I think another really great strategy is to have things available for young children that might be feeling frustrated. A great one's Play-Doh. So you might just have Play-Doh out, and if you can see they're feeling a bit stressed or frustrated or something's making them feel a bit wound up, you can actually redirect them and distract them, take them over to the Play-Doh, and they can start using their fingers to get some of that frustration out. Another way to do that is perhaps fidget toys. Give them something to hold, or something around their neck that they can bite onto if they're teething perhaps and they're really feeling that sensory need. And sometimes that's a reason why they'll bite too, is it sort of
feels good.
Yeah, feels good as well.
So when biting does happen, how should we respond?
Well, what I do, and just throughout my career working in preschools, what I always do is just go right up to the child. I get right down to their level so that I'm making eye contact with them, and I normally say quite a firm no. Biting hurts, especially when they're toddlers and they just need really simple sentences, just so that I can get the idea that biting hurts. But then I try and talk through the emotions as well. So I'll say, "Look at Jack's face. You can see he's crying. What you've done's hurt him," so they can start to actually pull apart the emotions of what's happened and see that they've hurt someone else. I also usually talk through how Jack might be feeling, and perhaps how you might be feeling that you've hurt Jack. So I don't say you have to say sorry, because sorry is a feeling and it's something that children have to develop, but you can talk through the feeling of sorry. You can say, "Oh, does that make you feel sad that Jack's crying?" If you feel sad, you could say sorry, or "Could we go and get Jack an ice pack?" So thinking of a next step that will actually help that child repair the situation and care for their friend. What I would not do in the situation, and I think it's really hard because it is quite stressful for adults as well, but what I would not do is punish the child or put them in timeout, or although timeout does work in some situations, for biting's a very fast, quick, reactive thing, so it's more about teaching the children that self-control and regulation. Never bite back. Well, most of us know that. But sometimes
good
you
to
just
mention.
good to mention. I think one other important thing not to do is to label the child a biter, and it's really easy to do when you're talking to other parents or you're out with a teacher and you say, "Oh, he's been a biter," but children actually listen to that and they internalise it, and that can actually make it a lot worse, and also just it's not great for the child's self-esteem. So really remembering to separate the biting and the child. It's just a child that has bitten, but not putting that label on the child. I think one other point to remember with biting that's really important is that it's okay for children to feel angry. It's just not okay, obviously, to hurt other people. So remembering to say to the child, you feel angry, that's okay. If you feel angry, you can do this. Perhaps you can blow out candles. 1, 2, 3, some other strategy where they're actually taking a breath and stepping back, something else that they can do. So remembering that it's okay for them to feel angry and to acknowledge that with the children, but just not okay for them to bite.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bridget.
Great. Thanks, Kim.
Join us back next Friday where we're going to talk about screen time, and we've got some great tips on alternatives you can use instead of screen time.
Awesome. Great. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.